Hi everyone, so this is the second Python obstacle course video, and I'm going to start by showing you obstacle course number 4, which is a new one. So the bot will start in a random position along a horizontal line. Um, and the tower that it has to hit is right in the middle. And you've got stacks of books that are staggered going back. So the main challenge is that you have to find a way for the bot to figure out where it is and how to get to the center, even though it may not start in exactly the right place. So let me go ahead and start a new text project. I am going to stick with Python for the remainder of this program. And I just like to get rid of any extra comments that are sitting around. Makes it easier for me to look at. Good. So just let's review what some useful commands are here. You can see pretty much all of the block commands have a corresponding Python command. Sometimes they're not exactly the same. That's okay. So drive train drive for a certain amount, that's going to be used a lot, and drive train turn right by a certain number of degrees. These are the two main blocks that you're going to use, especially for obstacle courses 1 and 2. Those are basically just you're going to create the movement using these two commands, and you can change right to left and, change the amounts. Then we talked about how to do a sensor check. So I'm going to just remind you about that. If we wanted to do a color detection, then the condition that goes in my if loop is that front eye detects red or blue or whatever I'm looking for. And then when I'm in here, when I'm in that loop, I can just get that lined up. Right, that's good. So when I'm in the loop, I can put more movement commands. So let's think about bump sensors. The bot does have, I see there's a right bump sensor. Is there a different? No. I think we just replace this and say left if we want to do that. Yeah, so we have a different, this is a condition also. Is the left bumper pressed, yes or no? Well, that goes in the place of this. And I'm just going to copy, or well, I guess in this case, cut and paste it. So this, we're starting to see a structure for what we do. We may start off with some movements if we want, but then at some point, I think we're going to have to use the bump sensors. And great, so we're going to, let's think about how to do this. Instead of if, I could say if else. What's the difference? Let's just put these both in here and consider the difference. So let me copy this. So my condition is the left bumper is pressed. If the left bumper is pressed, I now jump over to, you can just leave that structure alone when you drag it over. So I'm just going to put some random movement commands in there, and we can fix these later once we know what movements we want to make. And let's see, then I would also put some other stuff in here. All right, so just continuing to think structurally about this, you will notice that that green menu of operators it's not there in the code menu. Well, luckily you don't need it because things like not, which I put right here, um, that's just a word that you type in. That's just built into Python. You don't need anything special for it. Here's another one, or. And then I can also combine another if loop inside else. So we don't need the green operators. We can just, and then you can also use math too. You can add and subtract and all that stuff. You can just type that stuff right in. And luckily, Python is kind of like the English language in that sense. So the difference here between these two ways of approaching it is I could just say, here's an if loop, and then, so I'm checking for one thing, and then after that's done, let me check for a different thing and do a different thing if it's true. But I want to approach this from the perspective of I try the first thing. If that is not what I'm doing, then I try the second thing only if the first thing didn't work, if that makes any sense how I said it. I think if else is the way to go. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'll stick with this one. All right. One way of getting our bearings would be just to turn first and drive forward for yeah, let's use that don't wait command. So drive train, drive for special add-on that you can add here. And I got this from the help menu. Wait equals false. It's telling me down here I can say wait equals false at the end if I want to do this two-part thing, and it auto-completes for me. Except you would never need to say wait equals true because that's already what it's doing. That's already what the command means. So let's do it this way. Wait until I want both sensors to be pressed. So it's going to go all the way in one direction, in this case to the right, while not that and that. I'm pretty sure that is how it would look. Oh. Okay, so I think one way we could do this is to make this wait longer while we don't have both bumpers pressed. Then we just wait a little longer and this thing continues to run. And I'm just going to put the maximum possible that it would ever need to run, which is maybe 2,000, maybe 2,500. Ooh, not 25,000. And we don't need to check every 5 milliseconds. Let's check every 100 milliseconds to see if we've actually bumped. So keep going as far as that goes, but then once that loop is finished, meaning both bumpers are pressed, then we will stop the drivetrain. And then we're going to back up, reverse, instead of forward, to the exact center point. And I forget exactly how long it is, possibly 1,000. So what this would do is we would go till we hit the wall, and then we would back up the exact amount that we need to go. And then I suppose we could turn again the other way. That's one way to approach this that doesn't use bumpers. Or, well, it doesn't use bumpers other than getting the bearings started to begin with. And if I went right here, I guess I would go left here. All right, and in this case, the very final step would be to go forward now that we know we're exactly in the middle. And I forget exactly how far you would need to go to hit the tower. I'd have to look at the map again, but whatever that distance is. Okay, I'm going about this in a roundabout way, but this would be, I think, one version of a code that would completely work for number 4. I would love to just throw a comment in front of all of this now because I want to try something else. I want to leave it all here, but I don't want it to well, I guess it doesn't make, since we're not actually running this code, I suppose it doesn't make too much difference. But I'm just indicating that now I'm trying something different. I want to run a repeating algorithm this time. Let's try a different thing. Expression. Well, I can just put some math in there, and one way to make this a repeat forever loop would be to put a true statement in there, such as 1 equals equals 1. We use a single equals sign to assign a value in code, and we use a double equals sign to test a value, if that makes sense. So this is going to look slightly different. But the important thing to understand is while 1 equals equals 1 is just another way of saying repeat forever. Whatever comes next is going to repeat over and over. Okay. If not left bumper pressed or right bumper pressed, I think, is there a nor? Nor doesn't exist. I think that's how the syntax would be. Then what do we do if none of the bumpers are pressed? Well, I just want to go forward. For how much? Let's do this little bits at a time. How about 20? It's going to be a little jumpy. Let's say 25 millimeters at a time. Okay, else, meaning something was pressed. Let's do some checks. If it was the right bumper, then what would we want to do if the right bumper was pressed? Well, I think we would have to swing around to the left. If we bump on the right side, we have to back up, swing to the left, and go forward again and try it. So what would we do? We would drive backward or reverse for a certain amount. Let's just say 50, a little more than that. And then the drivetrain will turn. So if we hit the right side, we would want to back up and turn to the left a little bit. Not 90 degrees, but let's say 20 degrees. Great. So we would back up, turn a little bit. And if I did nothing else, that would finish the loop and I would start again and go forward. But I also want to include a command that is just for the left side. All right, so the else goes inside, the else goes one level past the if that it's referring to. So if I were to do another one of those over here, then I have to set this off. Else if the left bumper is pressed, I would do the opposite move. Meaning I would back up and then I would swing to the right just a little bit. Okay, so as always, my brain only really functions properly at the end of a video. We have to make sure, first of all, that this if thing is advanced by one indent. Okay, yes, that's better. And then also, all right, if we go, right, if nothing is pressed, we go forward. Else, meaning something is pressed, well, let's check. Is it the right bumper that's pressed? I think instead of backing up first, I want to do this differently. Maybe this will make more sense to drivers than non-drivers. But what I would rather do is turn the bot a little bit to the right this time, just tilt it a little to the right, and then back up. And then if I wanted to straighten out, I could say turn to the left for 20 degrees just to undo that move. But there's a better choice under drivetrain, which is set heading. 0 degrees means straight north, 90 degrees means east. Or north in the sense of exactly where it was pointing when the program started. It doesn't have a compass, but it does keep track of where it's pointing when the program is started, and it calls that north. So let's review this. If it was the right bumper, then this also has to get indented. Then we tilt to the right a little bit, back up, and then reset the heading to straight north, wherever we are. If we've gotten bumped and we're out of place, doesn't matter. The gyro sensor will reset you back to north. Good, and I'm going to get rid of this. So now, if it wasn't the right bumper, then let's check to see if it was the left bumper, which, must be the case. Then let's do something similar. This must be indented. Whatever goes in the loop has to be indented one level from where you called the loop. So if all right, I'm just going to actually copy and paste these 3 lines. And I'm going to replace these 2 lines. Okay. So if the left bumper is pressed, then I'm just going to tilt to the left. I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to reset to north. And then that's it. So that would mean I go all the way back. Is 1 still equal to 1? Yes. So I do this. I check again. Is my bumper pressed? Well, it shouldn't be if I just went through this process. If my bumpers are not pressed, then cool, go forward. And then if we're not pressed against the wall, if the bumpers aren't pressed, then none of this would activate. None of these loops would activate, and we would just start over, go another 25 tick forward, 25, 25, 25, 25, until boom, left bumper. Oh. So we better then follow the rest of the code. So my theory is that this code would be a repeating algorithm that may also work for the 4th course. Oh, and just to remind you, if you are ready to submit code to me, you can either screenshot what you're doing in VexCode VR. You can hit share up here, which exports a PDF. Or you can use, or you can even copy and paste this into a Discord text or a Discord code block using the tick marks. 3 tick marks before and after in Discord.